Well, all right. So if we're gonna sort of we're gonna end the podcast, then we can move on to the period of time what I like to call the what is grinding my gear right now. Okay,
Sorry,
I want to say
lean back.
Oh,
lean back.
okay.
Okay, you ready? Are you ready? You ready for this?
Popcorn.
I think popcorn. Yes. No. To be serious, I think something that's actually really been a negative over time, and I like that Ziggy's here. This is another great, and Noogie especially. I don't like what's gone on with Reddit at this point in terms of way the devs use it and the way it is for PoE. Now, well, I want to say, so just some facts for people. Ziggy was a mod for a long time. It's a thankless job. Okay.
Of the PoE subreddit specifically.
Of the PoE subreddit specifically. It's a thankless job. You can at one point there was some talk of making me a mod, and I torpedoed that faster than a German U-boat torpedoing a Navy convoy in World War II. So it's not it's not a fun job. It's you're thankless, it's not fun. Okay, so with that out of the way, it does feel like it's kind of gotten to the point where it is the official forums is Reddit, which is really not sort of, does that make sense? Like I feel like that's not a mistake necessarily on GGG's part, but it just feels like it's corrupting what was the point of the forum. The forum was you could have a great discussion, and good and bad. That's always the part of human life. There's good stuff and there's bad stuff. I like it. I like it for what it is because it reflects us. Sometimes people freak out or all these other things. I think that's totally fine. What I don't like is how it's sort of being, again, not maligned, but I just feel like, I'm trying to think of a way to put it. It just feels like, I don't know. The official forum should be the official forums. That's why we have them, or don't have them at all. I don't know. And it makes it confusing, I think, for players who are new a little bit. Where am I supposed to get information from? Where do they post this stuff? Maybe I'm off base. I'm curious what you guys think.
Whenever GGD actually posts something, they do post it on their site, and then they link that on Reddit.
Right. But that feels almost like to me the analogous thing is if I was posting a picture on the internet, I have to put it on Imgur. So for them, the equivalent to their post is just their forums, and it's like Imgur, but we're all looking at it through Reddit. I mean, maybe I'm being reductive or something, but I don't know. It just feels like we've gotten to this. I don't know. It's not that I don't want them to comment. I think it's wonderful that they comment. And in fact, it's great that he's such an active part of the community. I believe he started the community. When I subbed to the PoE Reddit, I think Chris Wilson was the chief mod of the subreddit.
Was he?
As I recall.
Oh,
do you remember
yeah.
Ziggy?
Like did he create the subreddit?
Yeah,
originally.
Which, is technically against Reddit's terms of service. They eventually stepped down from that once it kind of grew in size. It was about the time I started modding, was around the time that Chris and that gave up the subreddit, I think. Handed it over.
Yeah. I don't know. So what do you think, Ziggy? Yeah, I'm curious. As a previous mod.
So I do think that Reddit has more power than the size of the community would warrant. Like, the percentage of the PoE community that is on Reddit gets like 10 times their power than their size would warrant or something like that. They get that 10 times the exposure, and they get 10 times the kind of like impact, and they get 10 times the interaction that you see. But I don't think it's quite as egregious as you might think, Moz. Like, I think the devs post on the forums just as much as they post on Reddit. There's a few things going on there. Like, when Chris or someone posts on Reddit, that shit gets upvoted and highlighted and tagged, right? So you see that thing. Like the devs post all the time on the forums. You see like Neon, for example, just going on a posting frenzy on the forums. He's always responding to like various things and stuff like that. I think maybe recently it's dropped off because of how busy they've been with this exhibition, but so like the nature of it is that these things get highlighted and upvoted and all that sort of stuff on Reddit, so it gets shown a lot more. So, I mean, we do have a fair bit of discussion happening on both, and they still do use their forums as official forums. Like Nugi said, all the stuff gets posted there first, and then just comes over to Reddit. But I do think that Reddit has a bigger impact than probably the size warrants.
Yeah, because it does feel like if there's not the drama thread, I know we talked about that, but like in a bad, almost in a bad way. Sometimes I feel like because I'm an old school, when most of the stuff really only happened on the official forums, there's insightful feedback posted, and sometimes I wonder, if it doesn't get cross-posted to Reddit, will it get enough traction? Now, I know they read everything. That's another thing I want to highlight, and I've said this before, because I used to make feedback posts, no GGG responses, 7 people responded in the race forum, but like 3 of the 4 ideas I posted were adopted wholesale. Like they just lifted it off the page because I broke down. I had a simple solution, least amount of impact for the race community and the community as a whole. So I mean, they definitely are reading and paying attention. I don't want to imply like something negative. I think that one thing they do extremely well, better than almost any company, although I will say I think Blizzard actually does a very good job of this too, is processing feedback, reading feedback, seeing what's going on, the mood of the community, stuff like. So they're master. I mean, Chris is. This is, I'm going to sound negative, but Chris is like a master. He is a PR master at this point, to the point where I actually get annoyed because he says stuff that people are like, wow, he's so awesome. And he said something, but if you really read what he said nothing. And I mean, there's a skill to that. And I appreciate it for sure, because sometimes the Reddit community is going off the deep end, and we need someone to be like, as Ziggy was saying,
that's called reassuring words. It's not nothing. It's just reassuring people.
Right.
Things are gonna be okay.
He's a strong male presence.
Here.
Right.
I hear you. It's just like saying, I understand. I feel what you're saying. That's
right.
That's basically what that is.
Right.
Just kind of like letting people know they're heard.
Okay. But do you think that the Reddit is in a good spot, in a bad spot? I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing, because I like it, and I like it for being like, it's leaving it to be an organic thing. It just feels like it's become, that has changed as the game. I mean, I guess it's natural. As something grows, it's always going to change. But it feels like, I don't know, like Bex and Chris, I guess they're the ones posting things. That's the other thing. They're the ones posting things to the subreddit when it used to be a random person, which is kind of how Reddit's supposed to work. Right? It's supposed to be not, like if you as a content creator, if you linked your stuff all the time, you could get shadow banned, which,
they should stupid. They should not link their news posts in the subreddit. They should let the community do it. The community will do it within like 30 seconds anyway.
30 seconds. Yeah. I don't know. It's some of these little things that I'm always I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Don't you think that we as a community, especially us with somewhat of a larger voice maybe than the average Reddit user, like every user has an equal value as when they post, but as more of like the more known community members, you often, like, there will always be a bias for your post to get upvoted because you have a following. That's just how it is. So don't you think we have a responsibility to, if it goes in a negative way, to go in and actually voice our concern and maybe push back against some of this stuff that's been going on Reddit? Because I feel like that's...
Okay, do you mean Noogie, Ziggy, Moors, or do you mean us, the PoE community?
No, Noogie, Ziggy, Moors. Other... Because there's been a lot of meme content from a lot of content creators, specifically targeted to, like, and I think, well, whether or not you try to, but it's because it gets upvoted. Things that are outrageous, things that where you're really angry at something, gets upvoted.
Yeah, but that's I think that is the nature of the thing, though. I agree with you, though, that it's up to certain people to be the shining bulwark in the darkness, against the darkness, if that makes sense. Because I view it as my job. If there's something going on, I take my time. I type something out. I try to edit it. I try to not have grammatical errors. I try to make a concise point, and I do think it matters in the long run. I can't tell you how many people who are like, Moors, all I know of you is that stupid Cyrix video, you're such a... But then I read like 10 things you wrote on Reddit, and you don't seem as much of an asshole as I thought. You're just half of an asshole. And I mean, I do think that that's important, and that's the best part about the subreddit, because it's not just me, that sounds like I'm the only one doing it. There's so many people who do that, and I do think in the end it gets upvoted. If you make an insightful comment that, like, I think my #1 upvoted comment in the history of the fucking Reddit, and I've been there a long time, and I've said some funny stuff and made some funny posts. My #1 comment is still about Zeno, right? And I don't like it. I do not like that person, but he had that meltdown, and I posted how I just thought it was a little strange, and I didn't really understand, and I didn't think some of the hate that he was getting was actually very appropriate. You know what I mean? And that was because all I was saying was what I thought was the truth and what I think is the truth, you know, maybe from some perspective. And that's the #1, my #1 comment. You know, and I do think that that's the best part about it, is that in general, the good stuff rises to the top. And I was being completely honest. I said I don't particularly like him, but I definitely don't think he deserved. He got, I mean, it was, I mean, and speaking as someone who has gotten that sort of hate in the past, you know, okay, let me qualify that. Ziggy and Nugi probably gets more hate than I do. Given how small my stream is and how small my reach is, I would say I get more hate than you guys, just because I engender some of that anger in people.
Yeah.
And still, that post, I think almost everyone who read it upvoted it. It had like, I mean, this was back when you could still see the upvotes, downvotes. And I don't know if my Reddit enhancement suite shows it now, but like I had like 90% upvotes on that comment for a long time on that post about a, you know, he had, you know, thanks for scam and all this stupid crap was going on. And like, I don't know. I still feel like that's the best part about it, is insightful, good comments do rise to the top. Even if the memes are there first, they're always going to be first, and they're always going to be the first starburst you see in the sky is going to be a meme. But then what wins in the end is the good content. I you know, I think it's the same thing with streams, right? Some booby streamer is going to be up there, but if she or he is not providing good content, no one will be watching. And like I see a lot of memes about Mathel, right? And it's unfortunate. It's a little, you know, since he's a guy, it's like acceptable to kind of do stuff that maybe would not be acceptable for a woman. But on the other hand, his content is good, you know, and like I can't tell you how often I care most if there's a woman streaming. If her content is great, I'm so happy, because that's such a good, like that's the best to me. That's the best. It's just good content. I don't care who's streaming it. It's just an added bonus if it's a girl or a woman.
Yeah, I'd like to say, please stop treating Mathel like a piece of meat, everyone.
Yes, yes, he's better than
a person with a personality, and.
No, he's not.
He makes content that is worth recognizing, not just for his glorious nibbles. Okay, so I realize even now, me kind of joking about that is still being a bit, you know, a bit shit, and still kind of
it's okay.
like I said, not like, yeah, like you're saying, you know, equality wise.
Right. I don't know. I mean. Yeah,
I feel you more. It's like I have a love-hate relationship with Reddit myself. I mean, I love consuming content via Reddit. I find it a very like fast, kind of efficient way to find out kind of what people are talking about and get some like good kind of back and forth on things. At the same time, like it brings out the shittiest in people sometimes. Like as you said, like some of the lowest effort kind of most hateful, spiteful stuff will rise to the top just as much as the really well thought out, insightful stuff. It really does create like an echo chamber at times in both directions though. Like so you'll have like day one echo chamber saying like hating on something, day two echo chamber reverse circle jerk in the other direction.
Right. Yeah.
And that cuts off a bit of like,
and it never actually ends up addressing whatever it's the crux of the issue, what we actually should be discussing. It just becomes a circle jerk about whatever we like or not like. I don't know, like, oh no, GG is the greatest. No, they're ruining the game, and nobody's actually talking about like the change they just implemented.
There's not much meeting in the middle, which is the problem. That's what I'm kind of getting at. You're right. Yeah, it's there's not enough chance for those people to kind of meet in the middle. It's just like you hear a very one-sided argument, and then you hear a very second one-sided argument. Yeah,
right. Well, you know, and it's interesting you say that, because I do think the part of the problem is, in some respects, is people, and it's true of me, of everyone, you see or you hear what you want to hear. It was in that thread, I was defending GGG because I said I know two of the people who used to be players who I've played with, maybe raced against. I don't want to say anything more specific than that, who they are. People I've known, and I was defending that they're expert level knowledge. And so some person came along and was like giving me shit for implying that I have expert level knowledge of PoE. Now, I'll be honest and say I believe that I do, and I think that there's some stuff to back that up. But then in several responses, he then was like, so you think you're the greatest player ever? And so it's just so interesting how, like, that was his real problem. It wasn't that I was purporting to be an expert, whether I am or not. It was that he thinks that I was insinuating that I'm the greatest PoE player when I could not be farther from the truth. I'm not even the best racer, and I've been, you know what I mean? Like, not even close. So many people are better than me at so many different things in PoE, but that's what, you know what I mean? I think that just feels like that's what happens. People argue past each other a little bit, and they're arguing on this thing that the person, that's not actually the argument they're making, but then it's
that level of like straw manning that supports the really like binary nature of Reddit. You're either vehemently for something or vehemently against it. You know, you're like, GGG is shit, I'm quitting this game for life, or I love everything they do. And I get tons of that too, because I tend to be a little more, you know, like, take my time, kind of think about these things, be a little more kind of positive and chipper in my critiques even. So when I am criticizing stuff, I try to, you know, be more constructive and be more positive about it. So the straw manning that kind of comes my way is usually like, you know, Ziggy loves everything that GGG does. And that's the same thing. We lose that kind of middle ground discussion, which is the biggest problem. But that's not even the biggest problem as far as I'm concerned with Reddit. And you mentioned that I stepped down as mod. The actual reason I stepped down as mod originally was because of witch hunting.
Sure.
Which is a big problem on Reddit. And at the time, the community... So I was doing my best to moderate. I was spending like, you know, an hour or two a day moderating subreddit in addition to making content and everything that I was doing at the time. And just at the time, like, so many people were starting like various witch hunt threads.
Was
and
this
stuff
like
that.
Akira and Neon and all that?
Wow.
Yeah, and there was a ton of support for that as well. Like so many people wanted to see that, and I was like, at this point, guys, I feel like a moral dilemma between, I believe Reddit should be where the things that get upvoted and talked about are the things that should rise to the top, and we shouldn't be like censoring that stuff too much. On the flip side, witch hunting is so freaking terrible in what it can do, and it is not like reasonable in any way. You don't need any burden of proof whatsoever. Nope. When you start a witch hunt on Reddit, you don't need any sort of proof. You can invent proof, and it happens, and it's been proven to happen. And people's like careers and lives and stuff get destroyed because of it. And I've seen it happen. Like, go ahead.
I just want to, because this was a while ago, and I feel like it's actually really interesting. The three of us are here. I want to give some facts, and if I say something that's not the absolute fact, please correct me. So here's, to the best of my remembrance, what happened was there was a group of people playing the game. Someone was invited to their mapping group. He was recording what was going on because he was nervous about it, or maybe he was so excited because they were a top mapping group. They opened a portal over an item of his that dropped for him. Now, I think this is when either they had just implemented permanent loot, and or it was still allocated and it had a little seconds would tick down.
It was the timeout allocation.
Timeout allocation.
Yeah, okay. Whatever it's called.
Whatever that was. So there was no permanent loot. It was loot for you for your distance from the item on the radius of your distance to the item plus 3 seconds. You know, so they have something that give you time to run over and click the item. So someone opened a portal on top of whatever it was, Lion Eyes or something. Person got TP'd out, and then they grabbed the item, and they said it was a joke. And then there was a Reddit thread about it. And so I want to say that those are all facts. Okay, at least the Akira was the person who stole the item. Neon, who works at GGG, was in Mumble at the time. Now, the thread was eventually removed by Ziggy, and we could argue about that. I actually didn't agree with that. I want to say that, but I mean, again, it doesn't.
You remember so much more about this than I can't remember any of those.
Okay, well,
as I said, I have a terrible memory.
Well, I think partly that, but also because I actually think this was a pretty seminal moment in the PoE subreddit's history, because it changed it, and I think just to your point, it changed what was going on. because you're right, witch hunting became a staple of the community at that point, right? It became codified almost in some respect from that point onward.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always remembered it as a thing. Now, I made a comment in that thread. Now you can, I want to own up to what I said. I said, if that was me working at an American company, at the time I worked for, I was working at the company I was working at before I went back to school. I said I would be fired if I represented the company like that, because I'm sorry, they do not intend for you to be able to steal the item. I mean, we can get a whole argument about all this stuff. I'm just saying that was my point of view, right or wrong. That was what I said. And Nugi actually came at me very aggressively because he felt like I was advocating for Neon to be fired, which wasn't quite what I was saying, but I can see where you would take it from that direction. And I think almost everything that came out of that was bad. That whole thing was bad because that big thread was deleted, which I don't think was great, although I understand why. I think witch hunting is awful for the subreddit, but also I gotta say I have been very disappointed in GGG since then for not dealing with that right then and there. That should have been that was Gondor's, Gondor calls for aid, except it was Reddit calls for aid. And GGG
what in your mind would have been a way of dealing with it?
Okay, the way to deal with it, one, naming and shaming, right, should not be a part of Reddit. Witch hunts should not be a part of Reddit. But you should be able to post feedback on people's selling threads or like their shop that I had a negative experience with this person. I don't really understand how can they not allow it? And you're going to say, well, what if it gets brigaded and all this stuff? Well, they would be dealing with that anyway. There has to be some method to provide feedback. All that's happened by them, for whatever reason, saying we're not going to allow this on our forums is all of that bad negative energy spilled onto the subreddit. And I got to say, I kind of understand the frustration because sometimes there are shitty people out there and you feel like, I want to alert people to this. Like if you're a master scammer or whatever stuff's going on, there has to be some method to something. And I'm just, I feel like lately I feel like I'm reiterating this because sometimes, I don't know. I think GGG is a great company. They know what they're doing. On some areas, though, they have taken a very weird approach and gotten away with it, I think, because they're quote unquote an indie company. We can't, how are we supposed to do this or moderate this? Well, I'm sorry, at some point you have to deal with it. And so now witch hunts are part of the Reddit, which I think is not great. I really see now. I think a witch hunt.
So you're saying that it's part of the Reddit because we can't get it anywhere else, or we can't.
There's no official way to deal with this. And the thing is, okay, if they're bad, which I agree with, that one should have been allowed to stay. And here is why. Because it was like the seminal, it's like the case that would go before the Supreme Court. There has to be one at some point, right? Where there's like a dispute. Are you actually being racist and not hiring a black person? At some point, that has to happen before we can say, obviously, that's racist, right? The event has to happen. So until it happens, we don't know that we need to fix it. But once we see it, oh, okay, we need to deal with this. However, we need to come up with something, whatever the answer is. And now it might not be what I like, but at least it would be answered. As of right now, there is no answer from GGG on any of this stuff other than you cannot name and shame. Like I can't even, like if I went to the race and season feedback forum and said, XXX is a really bad racer because they such and such and such, that's TLDR of what I might actually say, they would delete that, even though it's criticism of like, he's winning the race by using fire trap and poison arrow on Marauder. And I think that's bullshit. They might remove that post, even though how am I naming and shaming that person? You follow what I'm saying?
But
so
you
like
don't even need to, you don't even, in that case, you don't even need to mention his name. You just need to mention the playstyle. Fine.
But of course, a lot of times people say, where's the evidence? So then I would say, well, here's the person winning the demi by doing this thing. You see, I mean,
but that's not naming and shaming. That's just presenting a case.
I understand that stuff like that has been the only forum that I really religiously read and watch is the race and season feedback forum, which has been dead a long time now.
Yeah.
But those types of posts were deleted all the time. They were feedback, and they were not naming and shaming, and they would get removed just in the like catch-all. Anyway, I was since then, that was one of those times when the subreddit changed forever on that day, and now we see witch hunt posts all the time. But again, it's not really a witch hunt, although I think
But it is.
We're using witch hunt in the vernacular of the internet, because it's not a witch hunt if there's evidence, right? By definition. But we mean witch hunt where extreme zeal in pursuing the destruction of somebody doing something we don't like. That's really what we mean. Whether there's evidence of what they did wrong or right, people are gonna go after them, regardless. That's the problem of it. You know, doxing and all this other shit. So, sorry, that was I talked for a long time, but
it's okay.
It matters to me because I like the subreddit.
No, I know.
And I think there was a lot of stuff I didn't like in there. And even if you want to say that my comment was really ill-advised, man, you know, I take that criticism. I felt very strongly about what I said, though, being that I thought this had to be dealt with, and I still feel like I was right about that, and it has not been dealt with since then. So here we are. I mean, there's witch hunt shit every day on Reddit now. Sorry, go ahead, Ziggy.
It was pretty interesting to hear about that because, as I said, I have such a bad memory. I can't even remember the specific circumstances of. I remember that I was a moderator. I remember that I stepped down, but I can't remember the specific stuff. And it's interesting to hear that you kind of remember that as such like a defining moment. Now I want to go back and like read some of those posts and just like see some of that stuff. But yeah, so you're kind of saying that there needs to be like a place for this sort of stuff to happen and people to be made aware of things, right?
Well, yeah, I mean. Something. I hate describing it as like I don't want like the black hole of bitching or something, you know, forum thread or something. It's not about that. It's like we're a game where there's interaction with other players, where there's trading, where there's I don't know, all this stuff, and you can't say anything about what happened because that can be reported as naming and shaming and removed.
Yeah, no, I ultimately I agree with you. Right, we need to be like, yeah, this person has been scamming. Watch out for this thing. I think most of the time, like Nugi said, this can be talked about without mentioning the specific people. Sometimes, though, it does like either for proof, which can potentially like it can be handled in better ways by being sent to mods only and not published on the community. Or sometimes though, it might be like all right, so sorry in advance. I'm just going to use you as an example. Never sink. This is not a true word example. Disclaimer. This is not true. If for example, Neversink was like putting a virus in his download of his filters or something like that, or like his website had like a virus or something like that. But remember, this is not true. I'm just using it as an example. If someone is like notable and the person behind it is so important because he runs this website, then that person needs to be like then it needs to be discussed who that person is, right? Like naming and shaming needs to happen to an extent when it comes to this sort of stuff, right? So it's like you would need to be able to go to Reddit and say, guys, watch out, Neversink's download has a virus in it.
Right.
Neversink's downloads do not have viruses. Again. His filter's fine. His filter blade website is excellent. Want to take a moment now to like counteract any damage that I might have done. Filter blade is a fucking fantastic website if you would like to edit and create your own filters or customize other filters. Anywho, in that case, examples like that fictional example, you would need to mention who it is, right? The problem is that there's two problems, right? So firstly, if it was just people wanting to help each other and warn people off of bad things, we would be okay. Yeah. The problem is that so many people are just like hungry for some drama, man. They want to go to the NASCAR and watch the crash happen.
Yep.
People are dying and people are like injuring all their limbs and having their livelihood ruined and can never race again. But people still want to see that shit because that's exciting. You know, you don't get to see that sort of stuff every day. So they want to see someone get torn to shreds and see their livelihood ruined and see all this drama. Yep. And that's fucked up. It's fucked up. Sometimes I don't understand people, man, but that's I even get a little emotional talking about this whole witch hunting topic, and that's ultimately again why I stepped down from the Reddit subreddit, because I mean before I came over to PoE I was a big StarCraft player, ZiggyD StarCraft, and I saw multiple times in the StarCraft community people have their livelihoods ruined because of Reddit witch hunting and that sort of community witch hunting.
Isn't there a famous thing where a StarCraft player was accused of cheating or something like that, and then it was all proved wrong? Or was it that I thought there was some?
There was two that stand out in my mind, but as I said, my memory's terrible, so I can never remember like names or specifics. But there was one where a player was accused of cheating, and literally the person just fabricated the evidence 100%, and it took like a couple days for that to be proven. But in that time, the damage was irreparable. And then there's even a worse example where someone had it's basically like the equivalent of PoE trade or something like that. Maybe to not that extent because of how much we rely on that, but like a fan-made website where this guy had put so much, you know, work and effort into this community website that a lot of people were using, and it was a great thing for everyone. And then same deal, like a witch hunt was started against him with very flimsy or even potentially fabricated evidence. And the witch hunt that occurred over the course of a day or two resulted in that guy's like all of that guy's work and everything being destroyed, and him basically leaving the community in distress. And like that thing was destroyed. Like that person's involvement in the game and involvement in the community and involvement in that was just like completely destroyed over nothing, right? Without any sort of like without any sort of counter to that or any sort of like leash put on that. And God. And it can get worse than that, right? Because when you get further along that, people are getting particularly hungry, or you know they think the thing is particularly bad, then you start getting to a point where people start doxing and stuff, and then it goes even further. Like they call their employer and they lose their job. That sort of stuff happens, you know, or even worse, someone shows up at their house. Like it's fucked up, man. Well, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before this sort of thing can happen. It's like,
well, you know, I haven't talked about it, but a long time ago now, back when I was involved in one of my wonderful times when I speak before I think and made some people really upset, they tried to swap me. Now, the benefit for me is that my name is actually semi-common. If you know my name, there's several of me where I grew up. So they swatted the wrong person. And so it's the person who contacted me from the police department, who was technically savvy, had to be like under 30, knew what Twitch was, and was able to figure, you know what I mean, was able to figure out it had to be this younger guy. He got me, I think, through Facebook or, you know, LinkedIn or something with my real name and where the guy was trying to do this stuff. And so he contacted me. He's like, so what's going on with this? I was like, this is just something people do when they're pretty upset. And yeah, it's really unfortunate when this stuff happens. But I want to say, GGG not providing again, maybe outlet's the wrong thing, but like a system for where this is part of it, I think exacerbates the problem, right? Because if it was just like, listen, the trade forums, sometimes they can be wildly misleading posts, because that's all it is, right? It's the wild, wild west. You can post whatever you want. Then people could just post stuff there. I don't know. I feel like they make it spill over somewhere else by not giving it a place for people to put their feedback. That's just, I mean, I agree. It definitely goes too far, but I don't know. They also, it's like saying there's a risk just creating a video game, right? Like Chris could have somebody try to kill him because he deletes their character by accident or something. And I mean, I hope something like that never happens, but it's a risk you take when you're a public persona, even a little bit. I mean, I have a shitty stream, and it would happen to me. I mean, somebody like you two, or God forbid, Crip. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Crip gets a death threat once a month, to be perfectly honest, just given the size of his stream, right? So I don't know. I think that not providing some way for people to something just exacerbates the problem and makes it worse, if that makes sense, because it's always going to.
So what you're basically looking for is you're just looking for somewhere to report abuse or that kind of stuff,
or a consistent policy in regards to that.
Yeah,
you know, like if they were to say, listen, if you trade with somebody and you trade something for the wrong value, that's your fault.
Yeah,
right. But if somebody does something that, you know, I don't know, however would be an actual rip you off or something, you can report it to us and we will investigate. You know, because it's their fault that the trade system doesn't allow you to actually trade master. Like they could create a scroll of enchantment and people could imbue that with +2 or multi-mod, and you could sell that on an auction house, right? And that would solve, the person who got the level 8 master would still get the benefit of selling that thing without the risk of the person who has to trade their GG item to them to put on the multi-mod. You know what I mean? So like, you know, it just feels like it's just something they never dealt with.
Well, you just look. What you're saying is you're looking for some recourse if someone is actively trying to scam a bunch of people.
In some way, yeah, or just again, or a policy that allows something to be done, a way to deal with it, or anything like that. I think that would be Sorry, go.
It's difficult for a GGG to make it their responsibility, both from like a PR standpoint and also from like a legal standpoint too. So I remember, I hope I don't get like some of the details of this wrong, but I was talking to Chris about this a bit, but about like keeping information on people in New Zealand, like legally. If they store that information, then players can, like people can petition to get that information, like under New Zealand law. So it's better for companies to just not keep that sort of information, like sort of like logs and things like that. You know, like their chat logs or something, or the reasons for why they were banned or whatever. Any sort of the stuff that might come up in this sort of like witch hunty or drama stuff like that. And if you start doing it on the official forums and making GGG handle this stuff, then they need to be able to do that, right? They need to store that information and stuff like that, and that can cause potential issues. So I don't want to like get into like too much detail with that. And I hope I haven't like misrepresented some of that, but yeah, I do understand that there are some kind of like legal situations there. But
if they can actually handle it, and if they kind of concede that, like if they say that, okay, this is not something we want to deal with as a company, right? Do you think that then it's okay for them to remove? Because if they allow players to actively scam each other, should they then, when they are then called out, I just don't see how you can allow that to be, like, how can you moderate that but not the offender?
Did you guys know that GGG actually do look into reports regarding scams?
Yes.
Like in trading and stuff?
To what to the extent, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent, but they actually do that. And it's like, I don't think that's a very common thing. People like know that. But there's this perception that GGG like are happy with it being complete Wild West, and they want people to scam each other and stuff. But they do actually respond to reports and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I've heard multiple people say that that's happened to them, or that, and then I've talked to them about that when I was there too. So that kind of does happen. And in terms of allowing a place for it on the official forums, like when you can just report it privately to GGG and have it dealt with privately, I think is a far better. It's a far better outlet for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the issue just comes. It's like I can't even remember his name because I hate the guy, but there was a guy who was caught cheating in racing, and he also had one of the worst forum shops. You know, like it was like, if you whisper me and it's Tuesday, I will block you, and like if you whisper me and you don't link the item, I will block you. And he had like 12 rules, and they were insane. And he had so much stuff for sale.
I remember that guy. I don't remember who it was, but I remember that guy.
It begins with a K. It begins with a K. I could find his name. I don't. You know, the other thing is, I don't want to. You know, GGG threatened to remove my stream from. They were going to get me removed from Twitch and from the website because I was, quote unquote, naming and shaming this guy. Now I responded, you know, not to toot my own horn, but one of the things that I did for my accounting degree is I had to take a bunch of law, like contract law stuff. And I was like, first of all, let me just be very clear. Everything I said was a fact. You can't threaten me over stating a fact. He was banned for cheating. That is a fact. He doesn't like that I'm saying that because his main account's not banned. But anyway, the point being, he was blacklisted by POE.trade. That guy had enough of his shit to blacklist him, and everyone was free, you know, oh, this is great. Then GGG gave him a name change. And so then all of a sudden his account was back to being okay to list and stuff. So, I mean, these are the types of things why people think that it's not well known that GGG deals with scammers, because it also feels like they aid and abet some of the worst. The people who maybe they haven't crossed the line, but they are, you know, building a house on the line across the entire line. You know, they never.
Oh, players will always do that.
Sure.
This is something that you will never get. Like where there's a line, they will play to they will go as close as they can and just walk that the entire time.
But then I should be allowed to be like, don't ever trade with this guy, right? But that's the part they stop us from doing. They stop me from responding. I don't know. I mean, we're getting back into the witch hunt thing. I just think this just doesn't seem to be a consistent policy a little bit on it. Because it shouldn't be up to the PoE trade guy, right, to remove him. I don't think.
Well, that's his prerogative. whether or not whether or not he wants to allow that person to trade there.
Right. And I guess that we get into the why does GGG cede control over such an important thing to a third party? But I mean, I actually don't agree with all those arguments. I think that that's fine because there's no way that guy would ever allow PoE trade to fail out of spite. He makes money off of it. It's in his best interest to be that person, the cog in the wheel that makes the game go. It's perfectly fine to rely on it. But I don't know. Anyway. So what do you think, Nuggy? Because you're very anti-witch hunt, right?
What do I think on what in specifically? Be a little more specific.
Like, what do you think is the answer for? Should it be like a forum post? Should it be, I don't know, just dealt privately with GGG for scams and all
on scams?
Yeah.
It's just so hard to say like how it should be.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complex issue. I think that's important to know. Because I want more information on it. Like I want more transparency on. Well, you can't always have all the transparency, but it's just I feel a lot of the times. I don't know. It's just hard to know kind of like the problems GG is facing, why they can't handle it in the way they can, and all that, right? Ziggy saying with all like there's laws surrounding this to where it's actually not as easy as it might be in some other country or whatever. So how it should be, I don't know. I don't know. As long as it's as long as they're dealing with it as best as they can, and obviously we can always discuss how that is, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the unfortunate part. There is no answer, right? This is like a philosophical, and I'm not necessarily rhetorical question. It's unknowable almost. It's a known unknown, and so there's never going to be a right answer. I do think the better model is maybe the Eve model that people. I haven't played Eve personally, but people have talked about that. You can put a bounty on people. You can do whatever the hell you want obviously within limit. You can't post someone's personal information.
I think being able to. I think a better UI could do a lot.
Okay.
I think easier like ignoring people, like an easier way of just not having to deal with a certain person could do a lot.
Okay. Because
once he's out of your periphery, once he's out of your fucking sphere, you will not care about him again.
Yeah, I think that's it. I want to plug. If you don't have Reddit enhancement suite, this is something I don't know if it works for the regular thing. I actually downloaded that, despite using Reddit for years and years now, to ignore a person on the PoE subreddit because he shitpost everything I ever wrote on in Reddit. And I actually am somebody, I don't mind responding because I honestly don't know. I guess you've trolled me, but sometimes people type what seems like okay, they're making a point, and that's why I'm going to respond. Then they write 6 more things, and it's like something out of a dictator's handbook for how to screw somebody up. They just crazy points and just all over the place. I'm like, oh, okay, so this person's a moron. So, and it lets me block them. And I think that's a fair point because now sometimes those people are gone. They're gone forever. I never have to deal with it again. So, but I mean, if you could do that on PoE trade, I think you need a third-party mod to do that, right? I'm not sure. I think so. So
I think there is like a separately community maintained blacklist for trading. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for a fact as a streamer though that people don't use those features as often as they could. So many people like argue in chat, and I'm like, look, guys, you're never going to arrive at an agreement on this thing. You're really getting each other angry over nothing. Like, put each other on ignore. And then they stop arguing, and then later, like another day, I see the same people arguing. And I'm like, did you guys not put each other on ignore the other day? Like, you'd have these arguments constantly. It's like, use the ignore feature. Your lives will be so much better.
I think isn't that just sort of, I think that's kind of the current culture of the world, is a little bit that people feel like everyone needs to get along with everybody. And I think that that's it's a nice idea. I think that's the right way to think about things, but it's never going to, I mean, there are people who are going to hate me no matter what I do, right? And I've accepted that. And I think if you accept that, you just accept that it's never, and it's not. I wish it was different, right? But it's not.
But I think at the same time, there's also when you look at on any of the chat boards or Reddit or whatever, people have this idea that everyone has to agree with them at the same time. It's not about getting along, but
Yeah.
Like if you're never gonna get anywhere if you come from the position that you're always right. And that's where some, like a lot of people, I feel like, come. Whenever you have these like continued long fucking rants or discussions or whatever that happens in the chat or whatever, it often just boils down to neither of them wants to like change their position one bit.
Right. Well, it's just, I mean, and it's like, and you know, someone like me who's arrogant and smudge about things, you know, that exacerbates the problem about everything that's going on. So, you know, I can appreciate that.
No, I think we both change our position on things. So I wouldn't say this is you.
No, I know that, but the problem is, that's just the reality of life. Is people want they want to change you to their opinion and all this stuff, and it just ends up, you know, you spiral into the death, you know, yelling at each other, you know, about what they don't even remember what they were arguing about in the first place. So, yeah, okay, so that, you know, that was a good long discussion. Here, would you like to know the second thing that's really grinding my gear? Okay,
what about what's grinding Ziggy's gear?
Yeah, that was only thing one. Yeah, I want to say the second thing, and I think this one actually will get more agreement, because Nugi and I have been talking about it a little bit. I really wish that the development manifesto was different than it is, because right now the manifesto is, "Oops, we fucked up. Let's explain why." And when it was originally, as Nugi and I have talked about this, and it might be Nugi might care about this more than I do.
Oh, I care a lot about it.
He cares a lot about it, but it's really started to bother me lately. Like the manifesto right now, they should have a manifesto about what's their vision for 3.0. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to have it come out. And like, it's just, this is such an important period of time for PoE. And like you were saying, Ziggy, I have no idea what's the objective right now. I used to know very well what the objective was, because the objective used to be get rid of desync or get as many people playing the game. That can't be the objective right now, because as many people as possible are going to be playing the game, it seems like. So then it's like, so what is their objective? Do we really care about balance? Do we really care about early game? Do we really care about whatever? And then I feel like people could help them and give more feedback about whatever it is that they're really looking to improve.
Yeah, I guess you're like, this is kind of one of the first times, I guess, where we're like, we don't really know kind of what their next step is, because even like this is even like the example of, they had this vision ages ago, and they're like, yeah, eventually the goal is to get to 10 acts, and then all of a sudden we get an expansion that's slamming out 10 acts, and they're like, so where are they going now? People are going like, oh, are they stopping like people are asking, are they stopping development on PoE after this? It's like,
they have been very vocal saying that they're not, though, so
yeah. Where is their vision next? I do agree. Yeah, I feel like for the first time I don't really know. Even having, you know, spent time talking to them and being over there in New Zealand and stuff, I know they have stuff going, but I don't really know what are their goals now. That's a good point. I would like to see more about that too.
So in fairness to them, would you say that some of this is like not a defense mechanism, but it's like they're just so overworked? I mean, I hate saying overworked, because it sounds like I'm not trying to say, there's so much to do to get from point A to point B that they almost don't have time to even like, tomorrow, dude, I got to deal with today, is sort of what they're dealing with right now. Okay,
I think that's probably what's going on.
Do you think they should have like an overarching goal also for us, like because it's been something that's been probably a driving force for them as well, having to work towards 10x. Wanting to be the like the arbiter or the most successful ARPG out there, and all these kind of things, right? We as a community, we have been rooting for them all this time, right? We know it's gonna work. We're gonna keep supporting you. There's gonna be one act and another and another and another, and we know it's coming. And do you think that's like, is that part of what makes them so successful, having that? And do they need that going forward?
Yes. So firstly, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if they didn't have like some big overarching vision thing going on now that they're working towards. If their goals were just more immediate, like, yeah, this expansion, we want to change the meta and keep things interesting. If that was it, I think that'd be fine too. But people do get more invested if you have like a long-term vision that you can communicate. If you have these like, big kind of goals people can get excited about. I mean, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is the success of the early access model of video games is in a big part due to the power of people's imaginations. When you tell people about the things that your game could become, people buy into that shit. People spend money for that, just for that, even despite like ignoring what the game is like now. And that's a super powerful thing. So having a vision and having goals that you communicate, you know, that inspires people's imaginations and gets them invested in the long term. They're like, I'm gonna play now, and I'm gonna keep playing, and I'm gonna buy supporter packs and stuff like that. So yes, I think they need to have a vision. I think they need to communicate it. It's just also good business practice too.
Yeah. Well, I want to say this might sound weird. I actually think in some respects, to put it bluntly, they're a little fucked, because really for the first time, they are the pole position for ARPGs. Period. End of story. There is no discussion. I'm sorry. Blizzard has taken such a massive dump on that franchise. And like even 2.0, there was still something going on with Diablo, right? There, you could see something happening, it just feels like every step GGG is just getting better and better. So now it's like, it's unfortunate. I don't mean fucked because they're doing something wrong. I just mean there's no place to go but down a little bit, unfortunately for them, just because everyone's getting so hyped and all this stuff. There's always problems, because every video game in the history of the world by every developer has a problem, and so yeah, I feel bad for them a little, because they could have the most successful launch and the greatest thing, and it could feel slightly disappointing only because they are the standard at this point. They're the gold standard. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Grim Dawn has something to say about it. Maybe I don't know.
I think you're objectively and factually correct. The only like argument that you can have is like, well, in my opinion, I prefer this other game, but like objectively, like they are the most. Well, I don't know. When you want to measure success, you could say that, well, the amount of money that Blizzard made from Diablo 3 sales is probably still more than what PvE has made by a pretty damn high margin. But in terms of like, like the largest playing community that has the largest amount of love for the game, they're at the #1 position. And that, now they don't have like a thing to strive for to beat or something. Like, I don't know how much of a motivating factor for them. Maybe that was never like a very big thing for them, was trying to beat D3.
Can I say, I'm curious what you think. I don't know Chris that well. The only person I really know is Carl, I would say, from my interactions on Alpha. Just a little bit from watching Chris talk and watching Chris interact in the community, I feel like beating Diablo 3 was actually would have been maybe he wouldn't have considered it possible 7 years ago, but then once it became possible, I think his objective was to bury them in the ground forever and ever and ever. If you want my 2 cents. I mean, I think that's why the game's so good and why Chris is so good at being the president or CEO, whatever it is, of GGG, because he wants to bury them. Maybe
I think not probably. You might be right, but not on like a personal level, because I know that personal. Chris is like friends with
like a professional level
there and stuff like that. But from like a as like
the better game,
an artist or whatever. I want to be so much better and to like absolutely crush them professionally.
Right. Professionally.
I think so. Yeah, you might be right.
Because it's like, I'm really good friends with Hellman. I want to beat Hellman in every possible race. If we're racing versus, like, if he's playing Marauder, we don't always play the same class, but if he's playing Marauder, I want to beat him. Right now, it doesn't always going to happen. Right? He's going to, okay, but that drive is there. But then we're friends, and and then we kiss after the fact. So it's like, I think I feel like that has to be there for Chris, because he's. I want to say,
for anyone who has a passion for what they're doing or in their work field or just wants to improve, like you always measure yourself against what's around you. Like I think probably between the streamers as well. Like we all wish each other success, but we also want to provide like I think for most people there is this like urge to just do it a little better than the other guy.
Right.
And if they do something that they do better than you, you look at that and then you take that and you say, okay, well, he's doing that better than me. And well, or some people will do that, but there has to be like there has to be a level of competitiveness between.
Right.
I think that's I don't know.
Yes.
I think that's natural.
Well, listen, I made a shit post about Jay Wilson where I did the Batman quote. I can't remember what is the, you either live long enough to see yourself become the hero villain thing. That quote from Batman. But then instead of villain and hero, I put in Jay Wilson, Chris Wilson after some bullshit thing happened with D3 and PoE users better. And Chris himself gilded my post on Reddit. So, just gonna throw that out there. He clearly agreed with what I was saying.
Crowned meme king. Well done.
Yes, by Chris. Exactly. So, yeah.
But no, because I was okay. I kind of want to swap this a little bit away from what grinds Moore's gears.
Okay.
And I kind of want to hear what grinds Ziggy's gears.
Ooh.
What does grind my gears lately? Okay. I don't know what has been bothering me a lot lately. Go ahead.
Can I ask, were you affected by the YouTube? You were obviously not affected by all the YouTube changes, or were you?
Not to like a dramatic extent, but lately I've been focusing a lot more on Twitch, so that's not really been bothering me too much anyway. Like my Twitch is probably like 5 times my YouTube now, whereas before it was always 50-50. So I don't know if that's a YouTube change or just because I haven't really been making much content. So that hasn't really been grinding my gears, no.
Okay.
What grinds my gears? Oh man, on a personal level, time management, honestly. There's too fucking much to do. That's what grinds my gears is how do we not have more time, man? How can we like stop sleeping or something like that? Why haven't we figured out the technology to not have to sleep anymore? To not have to eat and not have to sleep anymore. That's what grinds my gears.
Really?
I bet you we're not far away from figuring it out. And my impression is it's gonna be one thing. They're gonna figure out one thing that lets you probably be immortal, probably never have to sleep, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's these are built in. This is a part of evolution, is dying to create space for the next better evolved thing. So I mean that's a thing that it has to be something that can be turned off. So sorry, I'm sure that it might take 1,000 years. But
there's a lot of discussion on this thing.
Hey, if you want to get into a post-humanism discussion, we could be here for many more hours.
Yeah.
Love that sort of thing. But yeah.
Because okay,
no, I guess like in terms of PoE, what's kind of grinding my gears right now is that I wish the ailment system, so I love the ailment changes mechanically, right? Like I think the new ailment system is far more interesting. I just wish that we could play it, and that's kind of grinding my gears a little bit and killing my buzz slightly. Like I'm still like really buzzed for 3.0 at this point because the new monsters and bosses and stuff is so good, and there's still like tons. As I was saying earlier, there's still like this list of like 10 different builds I could play at launch and probably really enjoy. But I want to play with the new ailment system. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like I'm just not going to. That's what's grinding my gears right now. Is that it's just not going to be. It's just not at the moment good enough. And maybe like after launch, people will like what you've been saying, Moz, where people will make some builds and they'll make some ailment builds and they'll be pretty damn good. And I'll be like, oh, there you go. But right now, I just don't feel enthused to play ailments at all, which is a real shame and is grinding my gears because the system is good. But it's just not enough, there's not enough damage.
Refresh me on what has changed with ailments. I'm drawing a blank as you're talking about it.
Oh, in terms of the general ailment system, bro, I'm writing like a technical document manifesto of myself that I'm going to try and get out before or just after release about the entire ailments system. So mechanically, all of the ailments change. It's like I can't even tell you like the one thing that's changed because the entire system was scrapped and rebuilt from the ground up in terms of bleed, poison, and ignite.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're saying so dots and chill and freeze and shot. You mean all of that, all of those things together?
I mean damage over time ailments specifically.
So dots. Okay. Yes. Because you were saying ailments, and I was like,
I was thinking shock and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
So sorry, I do mean damage over time ailments. So bleed, poison, ignite.
I'm sure they're interchangeable. I wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm curious. What do you? I'd love to know. I guess what do you think about that keystone? I had no reaction to it because I guess I didn't really know enough about what was happening. But people flipped out on Reddit at the bleed keystone.
Oh, the Crimson Dance. Are you talking about the
Dance,
Crimson
yes.
Dance?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think, Ziggy?
It's okay. It's okay. Like it solves a potential problem with bleed, and like what do you do with it if you're using a skill that hits many times or a skill that scales more with attack speed? Well, then you take this keystone. Okay, good. But it's not as interesting as I had hoped, and it is kind of meme worthy. So I find it mostly entertaining in terms of that it's quite meme worthy with all the different meme versions that people made for like turning it into like what was it, like the Ember Dance or something like that, where it's like 300.
Oh,
you
the
can now
Jade,
stack
the Jade
300
disco.
bleeds.
Right.
That was a
Yeah,
Jade
just
disco.
go damage.
Yeah.
You know what? That's
And that was-
okay, because that actually puts me where it grinds my gears. Because the memes around around systems that people do not understand, kind of gets to me, right? The unimaginative memers out there who can't see beyond the I only understand poison and one stack ignite, and I can't see that there is some room to be explored in the middle. Because what I see when I see the Crimson Dance, I see D2, I see what are they called, breakpoints. I see that you hit the perfect 8, and if you go a little bit over in attack speed, you miss out on that, right? Now you're not hitting the, like, let's say you do something earthquake and you get the perfect like 4 slams and 4 aftershocks, and it hits the bleeds, and there's all this potential in creating this like perfect storm, which is really cool to explore. Or you would maybe you do like a really hard hitting heavy strike, but the weapon that you choose might have to be a 1 attack speed weapon, and then you could maybe even put multi-strike on there or something, right, to where you hit that breakpoint. I think that's such a cool area to be explored.
And you should explain, right, that you mean that if you can stack 8 bleeds and you attack 8 times, when you attack the 9th time, the first bleed will fall off the moment you just in case people didn't know.
And so I think like it's very different to have like a fixed amount of ailments on something versus having either 1 or unlimited.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I had not considered that at all. I think that's a very good point.
So I think it enables like
though.
a new play style, and that's what whenever they enable new play styles, that's what's fun in PoE. So it gets to me whenever people ignore the fact that they're actually enabling new builds that we can use.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think you take the memes too seriously though. I don't think I fucking hope not, but I don't think that people are like taking those memes that seriously, where they're like, wow, this is a shit change, there's nothing you can do with this. I think people are just like, this is kind of funny because it's like lesser poison, so let's like come up with some other funny ideas. At least that's I guess I am like, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm like a bit optimistic about the world. I get that criticism. So
no,
maybe you're right, but I'm more hopeful.
You know what it is? It's just the game is rife with this stuff. It's just the one that I always think of is when blood magic changed, and Chris was like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, blood magic is more powerful than it's ever been before, and then that was 100% false, and then people figured out, but actually, if you go completely around the tree as a spellcaster and pick up blood magic, you could run every aura that's ever been invented, including ones that are no longer exist, but you could still cast them because you have 93% mana reserve reduction. And then they're like, well, whoops, we got to fix that. So it's just, I think that's just the game, because even when they don't mean it, like was it Rory who said on, oh god, was it on Lion Eye's Watch, where technically life is better? Is that where that's from? Technically?
Yeah.
I think technically life is better. I mean, it's just, he's speaking off the cuff. I don't think it's just, he was making a different point than he intended, but then it turns into the forever meme. That's just the game. I think that's good. Personally, I think that's good. It'd be worse if there were no memes. If there were no memes, then the game would be poopy. That's just, right? If there's memes, that means people are heavily invested, and it's good. Even if they're stupid at times, for sure, and I agree with that. and detrimental maybe to some builds. I think that that's a positive. I am buying on the meme economy right now. I'm a hard buy theory memes. So. Yeah, I can't scream sell. So go.
That's
the
only thing I don't like is when the memes kind of get like personal to the point where they're like, if they're done maliciously to try and make someone look like an idiot. Like Rory's life is better than CI, especially when stuff like that can be taken out of context.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the only thing I don't like. But otherwise though, yeah, I'm hard buy on memes too.
Nice. So Nugi is a moderate hold on memes. He's not a fan, but he understands them. Or no, he's a sell. Are you a sell on memes?
It has to be a quality meme.
Okay, all right, that's
it's a bull market right now, man. It's a bull market. People memes with rise.
Okay, so 3.0 is basically 5 days away. Wait, it's Monday from right now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yes. Exactly 5 days, whatever that is. 120 hours from now.
Jesus,
okay,
stop! I'm stressing out, man. I have so much stuff I want to do before launch.
Do you think there'll be any more major announcements between now and then? Either one. Anyone can respond.
Yes.
Okay.
Like it depends on what you mean major. If you mean like here's a completely new system. No, I don't think so. But potentially new skills if they are still doing more. I thought they were stopping at 3, but other people are saying they might be going to 5. So potentially new skills. Maybe like further stuff on like the Challenge League, and I think we'll get one more round of balance in the beta. But I don't think everything's going to be done in that one round. I think some people kind of like it sounds like some people are kind of feeling that. They're going to get all this stuff finished in the beta. Nah.
No, there's a lot. There's so many system changes that they're looking to do to deal with some of the issues, I feel. And they're just not done yet. It's going to take a long time. Like, I think they're going to reiterate on the ailment until it's just right. But that might take months.
Yeah.
Did you release something? I'm subbed to you, Nugi. Nugi, listen to me. I'm subbed to you, Ziggy. I don't remember if there is a Pantheon. Do you have a Pantheon blurb? Path 3.0. No, see, I don't see it. I
have a Pantheon video.
You do have a Pantheon? It's not in your 3.0 stuff.
I did a interview with Rory.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Do you want a link or something? Or
no. I was just because I didn't want to ask a stupid question. Do you like what you've seen so far from Pantheon, or do you not like what you've seen so far, or what do you think?
So, I like the Pantheon system,
okay,
and I like one of the Pantheon powers of all of them.
Right.
The Flask one, I think, is the only good one.
Okay.
And I don't mean like in terms of power. Like, yes, the Brine King one is powerful. Getting you chill and freeze and stuff. But the Flask one is the only what I would consider like really well designed one, at least from what I envision the Pantheon should be from a design standpoint. If their design vision for the Pantheon was to provide just another layer of like passive things that you can get that are defensively themed, then the Pantheon's fine. Some of them need a bit of balancing because some of them you're just not going to be taken ever, and so many people are just going to be taking Brine King and like one of 2 minor powers. But my vision for the Pantheon is at least quite different to what it is now. I think the Pantheon powers, which are god powers, not that they should be powerful. I don't think they necessarily need to be very powerful, just that they need to be noticeable. They need to have some sort of visual component or some sort of strategic component that you notice when you play. A really good suggestion that Taki said was a Pantheon power where when you're surrounded, like when you have like 5 or 8 monsters on top of you or something, you have phasing. That sort of thing, I think, to me, is a god power. Because when that happens, you see it. You're surrounded. You're playing an archer, right? Your blink arrow's on cooldown. You're surrounded by mobs. All of a sudden, your god power kicks in. Phasing. Run through the pack. You feel like, yes. I picked that god power, and that shit saved me. All of the god powers right now, barring like maybe 1 or 2, if they save you, you don't notice. When they don't save you, you feel like a fucking idiot that you took it. So like when it's like, ignore 30% of bleed stacks or something, and you still die to the bleed, or because your bleed flask is not there, or you just have a bleed flask and you remove it anyway. Either way, it feels stupid and not impactful. So,
okay.
like, I wanted to have some of them could be fixed by just adding a visual component, where something happens on screen and you see it happen, and you're like, okay, that thing procced, and that thing happened. You're like, okay, cool. That felt like a god power, right? That had a gameplay impact. That had some sort of my strategic choice had some sort of impact. But right now, most of them you won't even notice them happen. You forget you even have the Pantheon system.
Right. It does feel like if they had god powers that worked more like flasks, of course, limited, like you're saying, it's some circumstance or something where it procs. Like I actually, one of the skills even though I didn't like D3, some of the skills I thought were really well done, like the barbarians. Was it Wrath of not Arrakis? Listen to me, that's Dune. Arakit Summit something. What is it called? Where you become the huge dude with like white hair?
Yeah,
the barbarian becomes whatever that is.
Aria,
like that. Yes, thank you, for 30 seconds or I don't know, 15 seconds, and then it's on a 3-minute cooldown. Now, maybe that's too spammy, and that's not good for PoE and GGG. But I mean, something where if you're a tanky character, I don't know, you get hit really hard, and maybe for like 10 seconds you deal double damage, and it only, you know what I mean? And your character glows red, like you're saying, there's a visual effect. You're like, oh, and I can survive this. But then, it can't proc that often or whatever. I don't know. It did feel like it was just they felt a little bland. That's the word I would have used. I don't know if that's, I don't want to, I'm not like, I don't hate it. I just
see what
felt
you're
like
getting at.
Excited. Yeah.
It's very easy to have something like that, and it's seeming really exciting and powerful, but it's also very easy to take that and abuse it in a game like PoE.
Right.
Like the flash one, I agree, is actually really nice because it changes how you approach a boss fight, right? You think, okay, I can actually use an additional charge now because I know I can get it back later. If I can extend the fight and be okay. And those kind of choices are good.
It changes the way you play, and it also changes the way you think when you have it active too.
Yes.
That's why I love that ability, because you're in the fight and but I don't want to use my charges right now because I want to get some more for this next section of the fight. So you're like kind of holding off. Like, I actually stop using my life. I stop spamming my life loss charges, and I'm not just thinking, all right, let's portal out. It's like, let's dance around for a second, let some of those charges happen. You feel that, like, it's really impactful and noticeable. It's really good.
Which is the flask? What is the flask one you're talking about? Because the only one, the only one I remember is the life regains. Your life flask regains 3 charges.
It's Ralakash, isn't it? Ralakash, I think it is. It's the Chaos Beetle boss thing that you get it from. Yeah, and you get charges if you haven't used a life flask recently, you start gaining flask charges over time.
Okay.
And so you have to hold off on using your flask charges, and then your flask charges start restoring.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I think another example of like solving one that does exist already is the it's the one you get from the totem boss. What's his name? I can't remember. But you get like one of the powers of it is like you get a percentage mitigation for each second you stand still, something like that. Like Tukahama, that's the one. It's like stand there and face tank and you get tanked. Yeah. It's not like maybe as like strong or impactful as it could be, but this is an example of one with a visual change could become quite noticeable, because if you have it so that when you're standing there, your character starts to like 5% larger. Maybe they get larger, or maybe like a silvery sheen starts to go over them because they're becoming more metallic. Maybe they like some little rocks start to swirl around your character or something like that. There's like those little tanky charge things that some of the mobs get. The champ packs that when you kill them, some of the remaining ones get stronger.
Oh yeah.
It's vigor
like a little
or all these
charge thing. Yeah, vigor charges. Yeah, vigor.
I think
you could get like vigor charges start swirling around you, and if they made some sort of visual change like that where you can see it stacking up and you can see when it's at max, that would change the way you play a bit, just being able to see that, because you see, you're like, okay, I'm standing there DPSing the boss right now, I'm face tanking, I'm using my flask, and you're like seeing this effect up, and you're like, yeah, I'm at max tankiness now, and you're like, okay, I don't want to move, all right, maybe I'll take this next hit and see if I can maintain this buff for longer, and keep DPSing. Like, that will change, having that visual component to it, I think will change how you kind of like perceive it and how you approach your fights strategically, and that would make it a much more interesting power.
Man, they should hire you over there, Ziggy. These are good ideas.
I put a lot of thought into the Pantheon system because I think it can be really cool, and at the moment I think it's quite underutilized. I also am a bit sad to think that there's probably not going to be any changes happening to it before launch, because they haven't mentioned anything about it at all.
No.
Well, I really hope this is where they go in and they actually have a 2.0 system, like where they go in and they revisit it again in a major way. And they come up with, because I really this is part of where I think community discussion could be good. Right? We have a talk about what should the Pantheon be, and what is it that players want to have out of it, like the visual feedback and the change in play style, and then building it around that philosophy rather than just these like random ass fucking. Right? Oh, Tukohama, it has to be fire. Right? Instead of just, okay, we have these different themes, you design that. It seems a lot of these are just, it just seems kind of random, whoever got to design each different Pantheon thing, and then you just, okay, well, they just have to fit thematically, and then we put them in there, and it's just kind of, okay.
Well, it does seem to be their design philosophy in general. Right, like I mean, I have never had it confirmed, but I felt like there were people in the office who designed each ascendancy. Right, so like you got some ascendancies that were, you know, really insane, and some that were, in all honesty, not as interesting to me. Right, like I come back to Chieftain. It's somehow totem and fire. That's very specific, and then you have one that's flasks, and another one's that's minions. And one that's like crit, and then one over here that's this random specific, you know, like giraffes eating bananas, you know, as specific as possible somehow. So I feel like that's what happens with the systems ultimately. Pantheon, there'll be a couple of things where it's like every build should take this, and then there's a couple that are like you have to be playing, you know, like that the GIF that was linked on Reddit of South Park where they're listing all the builds. You have to be playing ranged attack, mine, trap, totem thing. Oh, then it works for you at that point. That's just, I mean, I don't know. I get that impression about some of this stuff, and I think that's sort of your point, right, Noogie? A little bit that like,
yeah,
it doesn't always. Yeah. Okay.
Like I think a lot of the time you end up with just having a few very powerful, and they kind of like define the entire meta.
Right.
And I think that's problematic, where it's just, well, you always take this, and that's like your thing. And if they're not willing to change it ever, then that just remains the thing. I'm really happy what they're doing with Assassin. Oh my god, that they finally just fucking just bonking that down on some of the issues. Like it's a good thing, because they need to be willing to just change up the both Ascendancy and Pantheon whenever it just takes too much of a foothold in the meta.
I just want to say that Ziggy's idea for like visual changes,
I think
it's such a good idea, because now I cannot stop thinking about how much more excited I would be if my dude did things when stuff was happening, because that's anyways. So okay, but so keep going on that, Niggy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. People were freaking out in that thread about whether GGG's experts, that the assassin change was bad change and not thought out.
Whoever says that don't really understand like how power is in this game. Like I just wouldn't listen to them. Okay. Like I trust in the fact that they actually have very good people doing some of their balance. Whenever the thing is, a lot the 3.0 have gotten so much flack for being bad at balance, and I don't know, and they're destroying this and that, and how is this not viable, and they're idiots, they don't understand the game, they don't play the game, CI is dead, and like I'm probably playing CI because I believe it's the most powerful for what I'm doing. If I had 2.6 with this power, it would be crazy, like with the contagion again and all that, and I don't know, it'd be crazy with the Brian King. So I don't know. I feel like they've been so spot on with their balance in general. Even the charge thing, it makes perfect. When I look at it, it makes perfect sense. Like they're in terms of like how they want to like, balance out their game. There's still things that can be done, and it lacks cohesion with their unique design. But from a balance perspective on the tree, it makes perfect sense. So I would just not like. Again, this is why I don't really. I hate listening too much to Reddit, and I also. It's just because it just ends up in these stupid discussions and these like.
I'm just saying. For me, like I'm not an assassin expert, so I would never pretend that I know what I'm doing. I responded, and the guy was saying he couldn't believe I was defending them. I was like, yeah, but he was citing that no one plays assassin in the top 100 of whatever tree he's talking about. I was like, dude, that is definitely not the only thing they care about.
No,
you know what I mean? They care about the top 20,000 or something. Yeah. They care about, I don't know, other things. So, you know, I mean, it's interesting because of all the things that I think when they change gems around, I think that's the time where you can have an argument, because there are times when they nerf something because they want to force the meta to change, which I do not agree with. I think that they should be trying to balance things, and then the new meta will take shape from that. But I guess that's a philosophical argument. On the other hand, they don't want any of the ascendancy classes to be bad, right, and or overpowered. Like that they actually really care about. That where it's not really there's no real opinion there. They want it to be fun and playable, and not you don't feel like you're forced to take something. Versus gems, there can be I can see having an argument of an opinion whether they want it to be good or not. So, okay. Next topic I want to say, while we're kind of on the Pantheon thing, I said, this is my opinion, I wish all movement skills had like a 5-second cooldown.
5 second?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, yeah.
You don't like that?
No, it's way too much.
Okay. What is this like? What is the solution to where I feel compelled to shield slam all over the place everywhere? Shield charge, I should say. What's the solution to that? Just saying I don't have to do it?
No, because then now if you do that, you have to nerf on movement speed.
You're saying if you nerf
now you have to like put movement speed caps in there, and the only way to extend that is through a Quicksilver with charges on it. There's a point where it's too extreme, because you immediately people will just jump to the next thing. Like Sis wanted to have unlimited charges on Flame Dash. I really enjoy playing Flame Dash. I would like to there being a more cohesive system between movement skills and charge systems. So where
I can buy.
Let's say melee skills have like a condition. If you you have to hit something, otherwise you start using charges. Maybe they add charges on the skill tree. Let's say Flame Dash gets maybe there's new nodes on the tree. You get recovery nodes for your charges, and you get an additional movement skill charge or whatever, and you can have that on Flame Dash, and you can implement other movement skills that work in the same way. Maybe Blink Arrow, right? So you can blink without cooldown, and then if you want to blink 5 times, well then you have to take extra, and then once you hit the cooldown, well then the cooldown kicks in, and you have to wait. All right. And you can stack up charges again. And now you can either stack them up, you can go fast, you can get the cooldown reduction. There's so many things you can do with a system like that. What's up, Ziggy?
I look down at something in my hands, and then chat's like Resident Sleeper spam, because it looks like my eyes are closed in the camera. So I'm like,
it's okay.
It looks like people thought I fell asleep. Sorry, I was listening. I didn't fall asleep.
Okay, that's good.
So what do you think, Ziggy?
Yeah, I was just thinking, as you're talking about that I feel like Pee-wee's the only game I know that has movement skills that don't have cooldowns. Like you can just spam them endlessly, like shield charge, like you shield charge everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't think I've ever played another game that has that, and I'm wondering, and that just gets me thinking, Is that because GGG are like geniuses that have come up with the idea of not having movement skills without cooldowns, and that realize that this is the best way to do it? Or maybe there's like some sort of conventional wisdom here. So,
Ziggy,
yeah.
teleport.
Teleport? What do you mean?
Have you ever played D2?
Is it like, yeah, D2 teleport. That's true. And that was like dominating to the point where every class that could possibly get that, like, wasn't there a rune word or something you can get for it? And that was like, would you potentially problematic?
It was very invasive. Especially putting it on Enigma as well. Like, it became like, and you swap to the staff with charges and so many ways.
Everyone has to use that, right? And that like limits item diversity and everything. So I feel like that was bad there, and I don't know. Maybe it's bad here. I don't know. Like, I don't want to take away from things from people if they enjoyed shield charging around. I fucking hate it. Like, having tried to play Val Spark and stuff like that, I'm like, God, this is the worst. I love move speed so much more. But, I love playing like a bow build with Blink Arrow, you know, a powerful long distance move skill that has a cooldown, and having move speed feels good. But like, if they did change it, they would have to give more ways of getting move speed tied to other like passive nodes and things like that. Would have to be sprinkled around a lot more, I think.
I think there's space there to create more interesting ways of playing the game through movement skills. That's how I see it. I don't think, and until they have a good, clear vision of how they want that, I don't think that they should tamper too much with it. Right? Some attack speed nerfs and maybe more like the multipliers and shield charge and stuff. Like there are some offenders out there where when attack speed on weapons become the most important stat for casters, but that also ties into just how quickly you kill stuff. So if you take that away, then immediately you shift the power back to cast speed and those kind of stats. So it's not. Yeah. It's kind of hard to really tell before we have the 3.0 with all the new like with Monster Life and all that kind of stuff and double dipping gone, because that will in itself shift a lot of this.
Yeah, it's true. When you're spending like 3 or 4 minutes fighting a map boss, if they make them rewarding enough to warrant doing so, then the speed of your movement skill is going to be less attractive, less of a deal, less of a big deal. Good point.
So, do you remember, Ziggy? We did a podcast with Wabacha.
Do
you were saying your memory's bad, but do you remember?
I don't remember what was on it,
but okay, rip in pieces. Because I remember I said something about I wish mirrors were like 10 times more common, so that you could interestingly mirror items, whereas now they're very restrictive. And I thought,
I agree with that.
Okay. But I thought, I mean, that's just whatever. But I thought you said something about wanting more interesting currency and shards of some kind. And I mean, here we are with this Harbinger. What is Harbinger? Harbinger? Where they're doing something like that. Did they steal your idea? Are you going to sue them?
No, they can have it. Yeah, like the granular currency for things like mirror and exalts and stuff, I think is fine. We'll see how that plays out. I think granular like fragments that drop for chaos orbs and regals are a bit stupid, but
okay.
Because like if they're single shards and they don't stack,
oh my god, I'm
fragments or something, then picking up 1/20th of a chaos orb is like, oh.
Yeah. Do you think they're so I'm curious because I posted when they announced the league, I said, "Where's my auto loot?" And I had people all over the place on that one. They were like, "Fuck you, Moors," and like, "That's the greatest idea." And and so it seems like people are all over the place on that. Are you guys in favor or not in favor? I mean, obviously I'm in favor. So
I think stuff that reduces RSI is a good change to make. And if you like click, let's say there's like 4 scrolls around your character in like a small radius around your character, you click one of them, it picks up all 4. I feel like that should be a thing. I don't want us to like run over currency and just have a character automatically vacuum them up or anything. But you should still have to make a conscious decision to go there, stop, pick something up. Yeah. But to have to like click on all the little things, like use the labels or turn off the labels and then spam click the ground trying to pick up everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
But don't you feel bad about the fact that you're taking away the ability for someone to make a Cyclone character and name it DJ Roomba and you just spin around the map picking up all the stuff. Like, wouldn't you know? We're removing a playstyle here. That's not fair.
Yeah, sorry, that guy. I'm sorry.
I bet you if that name is not taken, it is now taken as of 5 seconds ago. So, what do you think?
I think it's about time that, but with the more stuff they add and the more willing they are to just have more loot drop, the more they also have to accommodate the player. I think back in the day where things were slower and you're kind of like, it took longer between a currency to drop. You can make the argument that yes, in this era, well then you have to pick up every single thing one by one. Also, every single current piece of currency had more value, so there was more of an incentive to actually picking up things. Now, when you're just dumping this much stuff on people, you have to kind of alleviate some of that. There really isn't an excuse anymore to saying, well, we want you to go out and everything has to be meaningful, and like stash inventory, like space in your inventory has to be meaningful. Yeah, okay, I get that, but there also comes a point where it's just getting ridiculous when you have to have 8 or 18 different types of currency, and right in the inventory as well, with the essence stones and like essences and league stones, and now we're getting shards as well. Like, come on.
Okay. So I want to. There might be some people watching who've never heard this before, and I've talked about it a bunch of places, and I don't. Ziggy may or may not know. My dream still is an auction house for currency only. So basically, a currency exchange where you can, at a drop of a hat, change your anything to anything. And that allows you to buy, if somebody randomly wants 100 regals for their boot that you really want, you can then get that on something. Do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing? Because I think that would alleviate some of these problems, where if we don't get it all picked up for us, we could trade for it at least. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really want an auction house in PoE, but that one I think would be a good thing.
Okay. What about you, Nugi? What are you thinking? Because I remember you were in favor it.
On that I agree. Because of
just currency.
Yeah.
Okay. Go. Say what you're gonna say.
No, I didn't. Me?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. Yeah, I thought you were gonna.
No. Well, like on currency. No, I agree. I think anything where you can encourage players to like focus on, let's say, picking up chromatics because they know they're worth like a chaos, right? They're kind of building towards that one chaos, the couple chaos that they need to then take their build that one step further, right, to where they can go and buy or they can pay whatever, right? So it kind of like gives more meaning to the things you see on the ground, because you can immediately exchange them for a raid,
right? And
that's really nice.
And even if they were, as I think they would say, well, Moors, I can hear Chris saying, even if we do that, we would have to tweak the drop rates so that things didn't get out of control, because right now we have it built in. People don't pick up every single chrome they see, and that's why they drop in the rates that they drop, etc. My response would be, I still think that would be better. Even if the net change was 0, people would feel better about the whole process than they do compared to right now, where you're like, I got 3 exalts, I can't find anyone to buy them, and or vice versa. You know what I mean? And you end up being frustrated. You want an essence. Like my thing was always essences. I just want to buy some shitty essence because I'm just trying to do some stupid thing, but it turns into such a pain in the butt. And it detracts from how good the game is. And so you can see why people like solo self-found and stuff, because you just don't ever deal with it. You're forced to just never. And so you're just enjoying the game for what it is at that point. And I actually think that's a shame, because I love trading, really, when it functions right for items over 3 chaos and value. Trading is awesome. As long as there's
trading. Trading items is fun. Trading currency is not fun. Trading items is fun.
Okay. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I'm going to have to bow out here, though, guys, because I've like an electrician coming soon. But thank you for the extended podcast action. It was good fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Enjoyed. Contrary to what chat thinks, I wasn't falling asleep. I'm tired. It is early in the morning, but I had a blast.
He got up.
Good fun chatting to you guys.
He got up at 5 in the morning. Who is it? Who is in the chat? Is it CK French? Is that who it is? Okay. I'm not looking at chat. I don't know if he's here. So anyway, no, thank you, Ziggy. Thank you so much for. I mean, he got up at 5 a.m. I mean, seriously, that's like,
love it.
It's really, really, really. Thank you very much. It was great having you.
Yeah, it was great.
Cheers,
Well,
dudes. Well, I'll catch you later.
I want to say to I'm going to talk to Nugi, but I might not talk to Ziggy. Good luck on the 4.0 release and all that stuff.
4?
For everything. Sorry, 3.0. Sorry, August 4th. That's what I've written.
Thanks, bro. You too.
Yeah.
And thanks chat / viewers for having me.
Yeah.
Catch you guys later.
Take it
See
easy.
ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.